Hello, my name is Paul Blackmore. Welcome to my watch and clock repair store here in Fredericton, New Brunswick. I'd like to talk to you a little bit today about why we shouldn't be trusting science really to tell us anything useful about how this world works, how it came to be, what the geological history of this world is, and much less about what's going on with global warming and earthquakes, tsunamis, all this stuff we're seeing in the world today. You know, according to the Bible, in the last days there's going to be earthquakes, there's going to be signs, there's going to be troubles in the heavens, the powers of heaven are going to be shaken. We're going to see these kind of things. And the reason why that is because however God does it, He has arranged that these things happen. These things are meant to be signs to tell us to wake up. So when we see of flooding out in Manitoba, when we hear of tsunamis in Japan or Indonesia, earthquakes all around the world, Spain yesterday, all around the world, these are to be understood not as scientific phenomena that somehow are related to global warming or some other unexplained scientific reason. These are because primarily God has said this is what's going to happen. If God chooses to use scientific means to affect these things or to allow them, or because He has advanced knowledge of how these things are going to happen in His own timetable, I'm not sure, but God said they were going to happen, and they are to warn us to get ready to meet our Maker. And that's basically where I want to get to at the end of this video, is to make a case for that God is speaking. We need to listen to the Bible, and we don't need to listen to science, and I'll tell you why. Back in about the year 2000, I read this fascinating book, In the Minds of Men, by Mr. Ian Taylor, and he has quite a chronicled history of the modern scientific age. And from that book, I was able to determine that one of the key players in our modern scientific way of looking at the world was Sir Francis Bacon. Sir Francis Bacon gave us what has come to be called the scientific method. That's a rough representation of what he looks like. And that's the little booklet that I wrote myself back in December of 2001, where I did what I called a critical analysis of Baconian thinking. I submitted that little booklet to this magazine here, Creation Magazine, which at the time eminent creation scientist Ken Ham was associated with, and they apparently liked the article, and they took my essay and they filled it out, added some to it, and along with Mr. Carl Weiland and Jonathan Safarty, they made a two-part series called Bacon versus Ham Culture Wars. So I was quite glad that they thought it was worthwhile enough to publish. Let me just now read you a brief quote which comes first of all from this essay, which comes right from the source, which I took directly from the copy of Sir Francis Bacon's writings, which I got from my local library. The obstacles, as he, which is Francis Bacon, saw them, which hindered scientific progress, were so offensive that he called them idols, and he urged his readers to banish them completely from their minds. Well, he was talking, among other things, about false teachings of Aristotle and some of these old ancient Greek masters, and he went on to delineate a whole list of idols, I think nearly 100 of them. But near the end of the list of idols, which Bacon said must be abjured and renounced, were any systems of natural philosophy, or science as we would call it today, which were built on Genesis 1, Job, or any other part of the Bible. Isn't that interesting? Right from the very beginning, even before ideas of evolution ever began to be written about or take hold, right from the very beginning, science basically stuck its flag in the ground and said, well, I'll read it for you here. Here's the Baconian quote. Bacon actually said, he said, the scientific method allowed no room for divine revelation. Bacon wrote that man understands as much as his observations permit him, and neither knows nor is capable of more. So in other words, right from the very, very outset, anything that God said about how this world got here, that creation week, the story of Noah's flood, all these things which would give us a proper understanding and a proper foundation for understanding how the world really worked, that was to be renounced right from the very, very outset. So that's where science got its start. That's its ultimate footing, its ultimate moral compass, if you will. Little wonder that ignorance such as believing that we all evolved out of some big hydrogen explosion. The elements evolved, the planets evolved, layer upon layer of complexity got added without any divine hand, without any guide, without any order, chaos, ascending to highly complex interdependent ecological systems. The absurdity of that is beyond belief. Back in the original days of science, nobody would be foolish enough to believe that. But nonetheless, they were committed to an understanding of the world that totally excluded God. They were committed to the concept, as Bacon writes in his writings, of trying to fix the Edenic curse, the problems of sin which have beset mankind since the fall of man back in the Garden of Eden. Bacon, among others, were committed to trying to fix that, or at the very least mitigate or alleviate it through scientific understanding, through unlocking the puzzle of how the world works. They hope to basically mitigate that Edenic curse. But it's interesting to note, and this is the point I can't emphasize too much, they wanted to do it, and this whole system was based on an anti-biblical basis. So any information that we would have in the Bible that would comment on the world, how it got to be here, and even history of the world in terms of the flood, which speaks very much to the geological composition of the world and whatnot, they rejected out of hand. Here's an interesting quote. Charles Lyell, the guy that gave us the theoretical geologic column, you know, that concept they teach in university and even high school about this layer follows that layer, which in fact doesn't exist anywhere in the world. If you look around the world, the actual layers are not as they're never in order as the geologic column says they are. That is only a theoretical column. In real life, the layers are just as they had been laid down in the flood. Wherever there were certain heavier sediments or whatnot, whatever causes this hydrological sorting of layers, and of course the fossils, the marine fossils in particular, the bivalve mollusks in particular, that delineate which age they're supposedly speaking of. Those things are all laid down in different orders depending on concentrations, I suppose, of what sediments were in that part of the world. So there is no such thing as a universally layered sediment around the world. It's all a jumble. There is no such thing as a geological column. Anyway, that being said, Lyell writes this, the fellow who gave us the geologic column. Charles Lyell, writing only 30 years after Voltaire's death, effectively cast doubt on the Genesis account of the flood by expanding the time frame. Darwin himself commented on these very facts in 1873. Now here are the words of Charles Darwin, a supposed unbiased scientific mind. Lyell is most firmly convinced that he has shaken the faith, wow, look at that, shaken the faith in the deluge, in the flood, far more effectively by never having said a word against the Bible than as if he had acted otherwise. So this, to me, shows intent to try to shake the faith in the deluge, in the Bible. He said, I have read lately Morley's Life of Voltaire, and he insists strongly that direct attacks on Christianity, okay, even when written with the powerful force and vigor of Voltaire, produce little permanent effect. So Darwin is apparently commenting on the desirability, I suppose, here of methodology to affect change or to repudiate the Bible, produce little permanent effect. Real good seems only to follow the slow and silent side attacks. So I think, people, we need to understand that science is nobody's friend. It hasn't fixed what it purported to fix. Back in the 1600s, science was the vision that Sir Francis Bacon had, was a science that was going to fix the stuff in the world. It was going to be able to cure disease, lead us into this new era. Here we are, we've got all this science, we've put a man on the moon, we've done all kinds of unbelievable things, but we're still beset with all kinds of cancers. We've created technology that we now have the power to pollute our very oceans. We've got the power to atomically decimate humanity. How are these things benefits? And now we add insult upon insult, we've pushed God out of the picture altogether, mocked the Bible, mocked the biblical flood record and all the rest of it, and now we assume we are sitting on top of this world and we are the ones with our hands on the thermostat for we're in charge now, are we, of controlling the very temperature of the world? I mean, this whole thing is just absolutely absurd. We as humanity need to understand the science is not our friend. It's not based on truth. It's not based on reality. It has come to believe that the story that a single element, hydrogen, which they can't explain where that came from, but we'll grant them that, a single element such as hydrogen exploded and blew up, and out of that chaos, out of that random spread, arose all kinds of other elements, somehow connected, added layer upon layer of complexity till we get to the point where we are here today. This is absolutely absurd. We need to dial back in to reality and understand that it's God who's in charge of this world. He is the one who allows earthquakes to happen or not. He is the one who allows tsunamis to happen or not. He's the one who allows flooding to happen or not, plagues, all these things. When God allows these things, he is speaking very loudly and strongly to a world that has largely abandoned and rejected him. We need to get back to that source of truth. We need to get back to the Bible that these early scientists were really trying to attack and trying to undermine. And that's what we need to do. God is still seeing to it in this world that you can still buy a Bible. You can still find that. You can find it on the internet. You can go to your local bookstore. You can order it. You can go to a Bible society. There's places you can find this book and find out what the world really is all about. Anyway, enough of that rant for today. God bless. I just want to share that with you, that this vision of somehow, participating in a green earth as if our participation in this, as the scientists would direct us, will tax all carbon output, tax cows for letting off methane farts or whatever you want to call it. That is just absolutely insane. The only systems that really work in this world ecologically are the ones that God designed. If we really wanted to do something for the earth, we would be best to divest as much of this technology as we could, push that off the map, and get back to the systems as God originally designed them. Get rid of the pesticides, get rid of a lot of this stuff by which we're poisoning ourselves and our environment and our water and all the rest of it. But ultimately, the real thing that we need to get back to is a God who actually can be a savior for us, who through his word shows us our great moral deficiencies, and who offers the remedy in the person of his Son, the Lord Jesus Christ, who shed his blood for us on Calvary. And if we can get this scientific fog away from our minds, I think it's going to help us all to look with a fresh look at the Bible and say, wow, that's where I can really get the answers that matter for the problems of today. That's not to say go out and pollute. That's not to say dump oil in your rivers, because the Bible talks about punishing people who willfully destroy the earth. You can read about that in the book of Revelation. So this is by no means some kind of a thing to encourage oil companies to go out and pollute the Arctic shores or the Gulf of Mexico or anywhere else. But this is what this video is about, is to try to, just for those who might actually have an open mind to what facts might be, to actually dial in and take a look at what the Bible actually says. It actually makes much more sense to believe the Bible than the current dialogue that we're getting in the media day in, day out, scientists trying to convert us over to saving the earth. We need our souls saved. That's what we need. Let God worry about the earth. He was the one who designed it. His systems are always going to work the best here, and ultimately he needs to be respected as that. It's not up to us to control the thermostat of this world. God is fully aware to do that. He's fully able to do that. If we turn back to him, God might stop having to shake this world as hard as he has been. He might delay the onset of this great judgment day, which he has said is going to happen and which will happen. God bless. Until next time, we'll talk to you again.